about alternative methods. And you just mentioned now that for many students that there are going to be different pathways to getting to their end goal or that career of their choice. And so I want to move a little bit away from application process in grad schools and move towards alternative methods and general thoughts. So just along those lines of what you just mentioned, maybe you can expand a little bit more about what are some alternatives for further education if I don't want to apply to graduate programs, but I might need additional certification to work in a particular field.
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are so many different ways of gaining the requisite kind of education training or certifications that one needs to get into the field of choice. There's the college postgraduate programs, there's certifications, there's boot camps for folks that want to get into coding, computer science, and the list goes on. There's a lot of online learning programs with the MOOCs. Really, in my work, I see folks using all of those, depending on their own circumstance and what they want to gain from that. There's a lot of options. In what I've learned in this role is certainly, no career has a linear path. And so there's always multiple different ways to get to the same location. So trying to be open and flexible and sort of put like a curiosity hat to kind of research and hopefully talk to people who are working in that field. Doing some informational interviews is like one of my favorite ways to kind of hear career stories. And what that usually does is it usually reassures folks that there are many different paths, especially if one is at a time where they're kind of feeling like there's only one option to get to where they want to go. Upon reflection and research, that's often not the case, and that there is a variety of other ways of getting to where you want to go.
That is really good to remember and to consider during application or even after the application process, that we don't have to make this decision right now, or that there are many other educational pathways to consider for one individual. So thank you for that. So the next question that I have here is about individuals who hesitate about applying to graduate schools or any other further education pathways that they have. Maybe they aren't interested, but they think that this is their own option. As you've mentioned, maybe they're worried about finances, or maybe they're worried that they won't get accepted. What advice would you give to these individuals who do hesitate about applying to further education, I guess, within these circumstances?
I think that probably the best advice I can give is to talk to folks. Career counselors are here to support you. Admission coordinators, programs are there to support you. Talking to professionals who are working in a similar field that you aspire to are there to support you. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get connected to other ideas, and that way you can kind of ascertain a variety of different opinions and determine what path is right for you. Yeah, and I think keeping in mind that there is no one right path to get places. Sometimes in career we experience happenstance where we may plan a particular direction, but then through some more experience and learning more about ourselves, or perhaps having an opportunity, we end up experiencing something that we never even expected, but happens to be amazing. And it sort of pivots our intended path a little bit in a really great way. So I think being open to some of the traits of what we call planned happenstance, which we have on our SSU website, is really, really helpful to have to build a strong career resiliency through the process. And I guess, one of the last kind of thoughts is that further education isn't the only way, of course, of getting where you want to go, depending on what that is, of course. But consider, work experience is really, really valuable. Getting your kind of foot in the door in a particular area, getting some experience, meeting new people, trying out particular kinds of work and what it's like to be in a particular environment, using a certain set of skills can really help you understand yourself better and understand where you might want to see yourself in the future as well. So there are many different options, I think, in regardless of whether one goes to further education.
I like the term happenstance.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something to keep in mind as I start applying to graduate programs, that anything can happen and that's okay too. And so we're almost done with this interview. There are just a couple of questions I want to ask. This next one is just about some students who may be worried about not getting accepted to grad programs or the program of their choice. Do you have any advice for them if they do happen to stumble upon a rejection or a decline of acceptance?
So in the case that someone doesn't get into the program of their choice, I guess one of the first things to recognize is that it is not an uncommon experience by any means. So trying to internalize that experience, recognize that many people apply to programs that they want to get into more than once over a period of time. So that's number one. I guess number two is consider in that year that you would have before you could apply to that cycle again, reflecting on what the school is looking for. What are some of the tangible things that you might be able to do during that year to increase your candidacy for that program? And to find that information out, you may consider connecting directly with the admissions office, connecting with career counselors, connecting with professionals in the field. Sometimes it might be about getting more experience. Sometimes it might be about trying to, raise your GPA or write a stronger personal statement the next time around. The key thing is to kind of remain hopeful and optimistic, and also plan for that year before you can apply again if you choose to do so, because there's usually some strategic things that you can do to enhance your application. And then in that next application cycle, you can actually speak to what you have been up to and how you've better prepared yourself for that particular program, and be very specific about the skills and knowledge you've gained that you can now offer that learning community.
This is some great advice, and I feel like we've definitely come full circle talking about gap years in the beginning and coming back to take advantage of rejections and decline of applications. So this is a really great place, I think, to come to our final question, and that is just, do you have any final advice or tips to share with the community before we end this interview?
Yeah, I think a final piece of advice would be to continually stay connected and reflective of what you want to learn. Graduate education is basically your opportunity to engage all the time in learning stuff that you're really interested in. So choosing that program, that's going to allow you to do that, and that's going to keep sparking your curiosity, is naturally likely going to lead to your success in that program as well. So, I think staying in touch with, sort of where your interests and motivations are is really important, and will sort of help you down the journey. And then secondly, last piece of advice is certainly talk, as I mentioned before, but talk to people who are working in the fields that you aspire to. Do informational interviews, find out what path they took, what programs, do they know about that they would recommend, what's the best options to kind of getting to where you want to go. And through those stories, you'll recognize that there's usually multiple paths, and that might help you with your own paths as well and decision making. And above all, just kind of trying to stay positive, organized, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help when you need it.
Reaching out and asking for help is definitely something I will always do when I need it. So I know the SSC has a lot of resources, and maybe you want to just really quickly touch upon some of that before we conclude.
Yeah, for sure. So on the SSC website, what you'll find is a variety of different resources to help with further education planning. So we have a resource that is entitled Considering Further Education, and we give kind of an overview of sort of what we've just done and some answers to some frequently asked questions. We have a great resource on how to ask for references, as well as that further education research spreadsheet that we mentioned before. And we have a lot of resources on how to write a good personal statement, as well as CV/resume, whatever the document is that you need. Every year we do a further education themed events. So we run workshops, we bring schools in, we run panel events. So do stay abreast of what's going on the Oscar Plus event calendar, and you will be well prepared should you engage in those services and that we offer, so that you can just feel ready and prepared for your application, because that's the goal.
This was very informative and a really fun interview, Jillian. I thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge and wisdom. And to all the students listening, I do want to say, check out the SSC website and their careers page to get access to all of the resources, and to sign up for individual one-on-one sessions with the amazing career counselors that we have at the SSC. And so this comes to the end of our interview, and I just want to wish you all the best in your academic trajectory. Thank you again, Jillian, for everything that you've shared with us today.
You're welcome, and good luck in your own applications. We're here to support you, so don't feel free to reach out anytime. Okay.
Definitely, yes, I will.